Indra. Mandalam 1, Suktam 30B. Rishi,
Shunah Shepa Ajigarti.
Devata,
Indra, Ashwinau, Ushas,
Chandas,
Gayatri, Pada Nichrit, Trishtubh.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik 8.
Verily indeed, he came near if he heard call, with full measure of thousandfold assistances. Indra and his assistances. Consider the situation where a high school student is attempting to seek a solution to a mathematical question. The student first identifies the variables involved in the problem and notes such conditional values or applicable value ranges already assigned to one or more of these variables as part of the question, and then recalls or calls to focus the particular formula or formulae that is or are relevant to solving this problem, which assists the student in coming up with the required solution. This situational template can be used upon any activity, modest and simple, or extraordinary and hugely complex, to describe the process of finding a solution for any activity is precisely that, finding a solution to a looming problem. The call for assistance is directed at an abstract and symbolic entity that readily and immediately comes to our aid from the depths of our memory or pops out of a page from a book on the subject in focus. This exactly is the message of this verse, generalizing the call for assistance to all mortals in all situations, anywhere in the universe, at all times, according to their preferred symbolisms, and have a direct correspondence to real situations. The scale and measure of assistances provided by these symbolically coded formulae is dependent upon the domain of their coverage. Indra being a universal symbol, his assistances are infinite and in fullness of measure.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik 9.
I call manly one of ancient abode, resisting powerfully. I call alongside he who is foremost of you. the father and his foremost son. The question of who the foremost is and who his father is needs to be established first before delving into other details of the verse. Vedic thought establishes a definite time-based hierarchy of beings in existence, which is the unmanifest supreme, Brahman, the manifest creator, Brahma, the era-specific progenitor, Manu, the gods, Devas, the manes, Pitrus, life forms, the mortals. Except for Brahman, who is eternal, each of the others have a lifespan of 100 years by their standard, which is not the same as that by human reckoning, that is specific to earth. By one time standard, Brahma's lifespan of 100 years is equal to 3.11 trillion earth years. A year of Manu equals 3.067 million earth years. A year of Deva equals 360 earth years. One hint that comes from the verse itself is that the foremost son here is surely Indra, the Deva, as the Suktam is dedicated to him. The literal father in this case, by the hierarchy of beings described, will be Manu. But, figuratively, it can be the other hierarchically higher placed progenitors as well, it being Brahma or the unmanifest supreme. The alluded ancient abode could be the primordial ball of plasma, the inflated universe immediately after its advent, or the beginning of each age, or Manvantara. In the event that Manu is the father referred to, then each Manvantara will have a new Indra. But if the first two in the hierarchy were to be the father referred to, then Indra would exist through the duration of the universe and will be almost as ancient as the manifest creator Brahma. In the previous verse, it has already been said that his bestowals are infinite and in full measure.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik 10.
Vayam Vishnavārāsāsmahe Muruhūta Sakheva Sojaritribhyaha.
That you we verily inform to the invokers, invoked by many, friend, bestower of all good things, master of substances. We are the Vedas, Indra our guide to understanding it. Repeatedly is it emphasized in Vedic thought that truths flow eternally through existence. Everything that exists is truth, and there is an Indra in all material collectives, even if not animate, who regulates the affairs of the designated collective, as long as it exists as one. The oft-heard lamentation from certain quarters about lost heritage of knowledge is perhaps misplaced in this context. It is something that is never lost, for we see its expressions every moment. It possibly changes its expressive style and perhaps even its interparametric equations from era to era. Instances of such references are the speculation that the speed of light could have had a different value in the early universe, and the recent research report that the need for theorizing the presence of dark matter and dark energy to explain certain cosmic phenomena can also be explained instead by hypothesizing an e-dimensional universe that includes a speculative decrease in the value of the force of gravity with passing time. Evolution ensures that there will always be some beings with the ability to comprehend reality to its minutest details. All seemingly exotic means of knowledge acquisition will surely have logical correspondence to material processes or their energetic equivalents that we, for whatever reason, allude to as spiritual processes, with the concept of Indra and his retinue of gods central to both. They are the masters of materiality and spirituality and bestowers of good things, read knowledge, in both domains. It can be legitimately said that each one of us, as constituents of the universe, are the repositories of knowledge ourselves. We are the Vedas. If we have the ability to know this fact and recognize that we have Indra too as our friend and guide for this endeavor.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik 11.
अस्माकम् शिप्रणीनाम् सोमपास्वमपाम्नाम् सखेमध्यन् स्वधीनाम्.
Ours, of those who are full-cheeked, Soma drinker of Soma drinkers, wielder of thunderbolt, friend of friends. Earth as a living being and Indra as its regulator. Notions expressed in this verse are a rehash of those from the earlier ones in this Suktam. Hence, rather than discussing them yet again, it might be a good idea to dwell upon a few related matters. The current definition in science of life is that life is a quality that distinguishes matter that has biological processes, such as signaling and self-sustaining processes, from matter that does not, and is defined by the capacity for growth, reaction to stimuli, metabolism, energy transformation, and reproduction. Vedic thought, however, considers the possibility of being able to look upon even inanimate objects as having life. One example is the life establishment process or prana pratishtha in an idol or a representative inanimate form made of any material. Another is to deem earth as a living being, its breathing rhythm corresponding to the two phases of the moon, the waxing phase being its inhalation and the waning phase its exhalation. This prana ayama or breathing exercise, keeping the earth healthy and vibrant to sustain all dependent life forms on its surface, in its atmosphere and in its depths as well. This rhythmic breathing corresponds to the behavioral pattern of a host of processes upon earth, to do with every life form that the earth sustains. Plants grow better during the waxing phase. Moods of mortals fluctuate according to this pattern. Reproductive processes are affected by it. A theory of contemporary science, the Gaia theory, comes quite close to the cited Vedic thought, but falls short of accepting the earth as a living being. The Gaia hypothesis proposes that the earth acts like a living organism and is part of a self-regulating system, manipulating the physical and chemical environment to maintain the planet as a suitable home for life itself. As this entire system requires a regulatory mechanism to sustain it and protect it from inevitable disruptions from within and without, the ever-resolute Soma-drinking, thunderbolt-wielding Indra enters the scheme of things, and with Indra come his retinue of natural forces, the gods.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik
12.
तथा तदस्तु सोमपास्तके मध्यम् तथा कृणो यथा न भस्मसेष्टये.
So may it be, Soma drinker, friend, wielder of thunderbolt, so you do make, as we desire of you, and strive to get that. The dual personality of Indra and the gods. The gods seem to be quite open-minded, or at least one of their dual personalities surely is, which is referred to as the bestower of abundances. This personality freely shares all knowledge about the workings of the domain that they regulate and administer, regardless of the disposition of the receiver. The only impediment to this transfer of knowledge being the intelligence capacity and wisdom of the recipient. Perhaps a commitment before the transfer clearly specifying unconditional acceptance of culpability and consequent severe punishment upon a stamped paper admissible in a universal court of law could be a good deterrent against misuse of the transferred knowledge. But that, unfortunately, is not the way the universe is designed to work. Whether existence is mortal will-driven or universal script-driven, the knowledge transfer happens incessantly and there is both use and misuse of this acquisition. History and legends are replete with such recountals. It is upon misuse of knowledge that the other personality expresses itself and is equally free with its retributive and wrathful actions, the geniality of the first character being entirely untraceable. This is the Sambhavami Yuge Yuge moment of this cyclic process, alternating between the two expressions of Indra and the other gods.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30.
Rik
13.
रेवतीर्नस्य धमाद इन्द्रे सन्तु विवाजाः श्रुमन्तो याभिर्वदेम.
Fellowship in drinking upon Indra. Let his abundant riches be nourishing, wealthy, they with which we would intoxicate ourselves. The inebriety of teetotalers. The fellowship of confirmed teetotalers will find it appalling and deplorable that a state of being that could be achieved by consuming wholesome milk and delicious honey, representing truth and discernment, that is unrestrictedly available in abundance, delivered not just right to one's doorstep, but into the interior of our minds by the gods themselves, is striven to be achieved by the other side with consumption of fermented, foul-smelling and abominably tasting fluids. While one grants exhilarating bliss, the other leaves its consumers in senseless stupor and befuddlement. Both are intoxicating indeed, except that one promotes transcendence while the other leads to decadence in most instances. Members of the Fellowship of Compulsive Alcoholics will certainly disagree with this surmise, but then that is their prerogative. Also, the nature of duality not only justifies their existence, but also guarantees the free expression of their proclivities, just as it does with the teetotalers. This is the fundamental right granted to all mortals in the will-driven scenario of universal progression. In the script-driven scenario, transcendence and decadence become comparable states of being, each attained or abandoned at preordained times, their consequences considered wealth by the respective followers of the concerned path taken. The role of Indra and the gods do not change, however. They are at work all the time and in the same manner, regardless of the scenario, doing what they have to flawlessly.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30,
Rik
14.
आघत्वा वान्मनात्तस्तोतृभ्यो धृष्णवियानः ऋणो रक्षन्न चक्र्योः.
Truly indeed, like you, a guarantor by yourself to worshippers, courageous, coming towards like an axle of two moving wheels. Gods as AI-powered androids. Just as the state of duality guarantees freedom of expression of all opposites, the gods too assure delivery of knowledge sought, of course subject to certain protocols being followed. They are courageous enough to do so because of two reasons. One is that they have been granted this ability, while the other is that their mandate of regulation and administration of the universe and existence includes initiating penal procedures against erring mortals who go against diktats that govern existence. They can be compared to what are termed AI-powered androids, devoid of feelings like love, hatred, mercy, vengeance, and the likes. Their enduring and unflinching allegiance is to the manifest Supreme, who too can depend upon their faithfulness to their work blindly. They may care not for being worshipped or reviled by mortals, these expressions being peculiarities of mortal minds, which they uncaringly on their part project upon gods for their own satisfaction. One can imagine the chaotic state that existence will find itself in if gods were to hold biases for or against individuals and act according to them rather than uniformly applicable rules. This is the reason for imagining gods coming towards seekers like the axle of two moving wheels, an arrangement that represents a strict framework of truth and wisdom, working in tandem to deliver whatever that has been sought. The arrangement precludes biases and ensures rigorous adherence to the mandate of gods. This mode of work will be possible only if gods were akin to AI-powered androids. Perhaps we have known this all along but have refused to acknowledge it. The laws of thermodynamics or the laws of motion or any other natural law cannot work any other way but one. So cannot the gods who represent them.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
30,
Rik
15.
आयद्भुवस्सदक्रदपाकामम् दरिद्रेणा ऋणो रक्षन्न सचीभिः.
Verily, when offerings of invokers, doer of actions multitude, by assistances like of moving axle, distinction between real mortals and abstract immortals. It will be interesting to probe the notion of emotion and see how far logic can mimic its undulating flow to determine whether a line can be drawn somewhere that says, thus far is logic-driven emotion and beyond is a sentimental realm that cannot be explained by logic. If there was to be no such determinable limit and any sentiment in its entirety were to be logic-bound, then mortals, too, as they have been existing ever since their advent, are essentially AI-powered androids. Continuing with the thread of thought from the previous verse, we come to a setting where both gods and mortals are essentially such programmed androids, with one major distinction: that mortals are expressions of gods or natural forces is an established fact. So too is the fact that while gods make mortals in the expressions of the reality they represent, mortals make personified gods in their own form that constitutes their reality. In this mutual endeavor of defining each other, the distinctions that stand out are that while material forms of mortals are subject to short-term mortality, the gods have no form except the ones imagined for them by the mortals. Being abstractions, they can only establish their presence through their expressions. They may change the value of the parameters that describe their abstracted selves, but are essentially not subject to mortality, which makes their allegiance to the manifest supreme immutable and lasting in the matter of administering existence. Mortals, on the other hand, owe their allegiance to themselves, which makes survival their basic instinct. This distinction between the two is the factor that makes it possible for the story of existence to be enacted in all its splendor. If you found this video informative and relevant, please like and share it. If you would like to see more such videos in this ongoing series, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for viewing.